Hey everyone, Guppy Girl here, and if you've watched a few of my videos, you've probably been able to surmise that I am just a tad bit obsessed with collecting aquarium plants right now. The main issue with collecting so many aquarium plants is that I'm having a really difficult time finding room for all these plants. My solution to this is growing them in cups, jars, plastic bins, any container that will hold water is good enough for them. In this video, I will be going over how my plants have been growing in these bins and containers over time, and also how I set them up. The way I do it is by no means the best way to be growing aquarium plants, but for someone who's just a collector who just wants to be collecting plants but doesn't have room, they are growing fine in these bins and they're not dying, so I see that as a win. This bin started off as a hodgepodge of different types of ground covers, and eventually pearlweed has now taken over 6 months later. Substrate is fluval stratum mixed with small pieces of crushed lava rock. Lighting is a T8 fluorescent bulb. Water changes, as with all my bins, is almost never happening unless I remember, like once a month. And for fertilization, I almost never fertilize. This bin, I've sometimes used a little bit of Seachem comprehensive supplement. After completely neglecting this Monte Carlo for a year, it started to accumulate some algae and biofilm. So who better to clean it up than some little nano shrimp? They were all over it within minutes. I actually did a whole video on it. There wasn't much context to that video, and it's mostly just a time lapse. And I ended up with completely clean plants after a full day of their hard work picking off all those little scrumptious yummies within the Monte Carlo. Okay guys, I know this is not a Monte Carlo video, but I just wanted to show you that how it grows. So you see I've put in all these little plugs, right? They're all over the place and you're like, huh, it's not really spreading very much. Well, if we very gently move the sand off of here, we're getting Monte Carlo under here. In fact, look, there's more Monte Carlo under there. There's more over there. None over there, but it's literally like I can see a little bit of faint green. So it's literally everywhere. In fact, let's do one more because I can kind of get a hint. It's like looking for buried treasure. Like, look at that. You see all of that that was buried under there? Look at all that. We'll recover it, but yeah, like there's more and more and more every time I go around here. So it's pretty amazing. Maybe none over here yet. Well, there's a little something right there. Anyways, it's always really awesome to see how well the carpet's doing. And you know, it takes a very long time, I'm not gonna lie, but yeah. This bin is a combination of Monte Carlo and hydrocotyle tripartita. As you can see from the footage, if you have a keen eye, you will see that there is some hair algae sprinkled around the place, or especially around the hydrocotyle. But it's really not too much of an issue. This is about how much algae I get after 2 weeks, and I wanted to show you this rather than showing you something beautiful and perfect. So yes, my bins do get some algae. I don't know if you guys can see this, but we have got some blue-green algae growing in my tub of just Eleocharis, acicularis, I believe. I believe it's that type of dwarf hair grass. I'll put it below in case I messed up the name. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, guys, but focus. Yep, that is a blue-green algae or cyanobacteria, and I don't know how this happened. There must have been a little bit of, so these were all from a few 3 cups of tissue cultures, and I didn't have a place for them, so I threw them in here, and now you can see, I don't know, they've been fine for like more than a month in here, actually, like surprisingly. Slowly growing in directions, and all kinds of directions that they shouldn't be growing in, but yeah, it was fine, and then I don't know what happened, but now I got this blue-green algae, so I need to take care of this. I did a little experiment of testing out to see if ram's horn snails eat cyanobacteria, and it was successful. I can't say about other snails, but I did have a bucket of cyanobacteria and some cardinal plant tissue culture that was floating in water. It all turned into cyanobacteria. Put the ram's horn snail in there, and it basically ate almost all of it except for the stuff on the plants. I think that was after a few days, and it did lay a ton of eggs afterwards. I pulled out all the plants, dried out all of this substrate thoroughly, so now it's all dry, but I want a thicker aqua soil layer for this new grass coming in, and you can see all of the sand and soil is mixed up. So I am this is just a strainer or colander, whatever you want to call it, a plastic thing with holes. So I am just kind of sifting through. You can see all the sand that's coming out down below. It's not pure white anymore. Pool filter sand is pure white, but because there is aqua soil in here, the finer grains have fallen into the bottom here, but that's fine. You can see that there is a little runner coming off the rest of the roots. That's fine. I'm going to plant this guy. It has most of the plant up here, and you can see this one white root is new. So we're just going to do what I was doing before, is grabbing it by the bottom, trying to get it to straighten up. Now we're going to plant it in the substrate, and bing, bang, boom, we're done. So over here, this is a better example of a runner. You can see, this is a new one, I can tell, because the stem is so white. Underneath each little leaf is one root. So some of this will make it, some of this might not. Eventually they will become mother plants, as I've been calling them. But until then, I'm just gonna put it in the ground, because it may make it, it may not make it, but those are like such a big pain to try to plant all delicately, like when you have so many nicer mother plants like this one here that are already formed, already have roots, easy to grab, should be theoretically easier to plant. So yeah. I am finally done, minus a little corner over there that can be a little more planted. So I'm gonna do that tomorrow. And then here is our newest bin. Believe it or not, that whole bin of plants only equated to about 1/3 of the original bin of just floating grasses. So I had to think quickly and just turn this all into terrarium type plants. because I just don't have any more room for this species of plant, so let's turn this into a terrarium. I've done a few terrarium-ish builds or grow out containers for terrarium type plants. Check out one of those videos if you want to know specifics on how I make the build. Which is looking really good. Some areas like tufts have come out easier than others. I think everything, yeah, it looks like it's kind of died underneath, but what has come out is looking really healthy and spreading slowly but surely. This is about 6 months of growth from the day that I planted it. And a few things to note is because it is humid in here, we are getting some little bits and pieces of moss just coming up, probably sphagnum moss, because I did mix in a dry sphagnum moss mix into this substrate. Another thing you will notice is that we have some little white moldy patches around here, ever so common, especially in terrariums. Now, if I had springtails, they'd make really quick work of this, but I don't, unfortunately. I think it would be really cool if we can get this to flower and seed and see what this plant looks like when it's in bloom. One of my goals that I'm always working towards is trying to have all my plants flower that can flower and record and document all of that. If we're lucky in the future, we'll be able to see this grass propagate sexually in the future with flowers and everything. That is the goal. I'll see you guys in that video if that ever happens. Until then, see you in the next one.